The twin suns of Cardian Prime were sinking low, smearing the crystalline desert in bruised gold, when Bruce Stanton first saw the wreck through the wavering heat. At 38, Bruce had spent nearly 20 years wandering from one dusty mining outpost to the next, fixing whatever battered machinery the frontier spat at him. He lived by 3 rules. Mind your own business, get paid up front, and never, ever, get tangled in other people's trouble. He was breaking all of them just by being on this desolate world. The distress beacon had been stuttering across his scanners for 6 hours before he finally turned toward it. Protocol said to ignore it. Everyone knew the Cardian system crawled with pirates who used false distress signals like baited hooks. But this one had sounded like a dying heartbeat. Fragile, desperate, someone clinging to hope by their fingernails. That was what pulled him off course. He adjusted the temperature regulators on his old exosuit, old enough that the servos whined like arthritic joints, and pushed forward. The heat shimmered off the crystalline sand, each step crunching over silicate grains that glittered like powdered stars. His scanner pulsed gently. The signal was just over the next rise. When he crested the dune, he stopped cold. The ship, what was left of it, rose from the sand like some wounded creature. Even half buried and smoking, its elegant curves marked it unmistakably as Draconian. Bruce felt his chest tighten. Draconians didn't come into human space unless something had gone very wrong. But it wasn't the ship that froze him. It was the 2 figures huddled in its shadow. The woman's beauty struck him first, an otherworldly, fragile sort of beauty, as if she were carved from moonlight and scales. The fading suns glimmered across her body, scattering violet and gold over her drooping wings. Her silver hair spilled around her like liquid metal. One arm hung at an impossible angle, and dark purple blood trickled between her fingers where she pressed her side. A child stood beside her. A little girl, perhaps 7 years old, with scales that shimmered from pink to gold depending on how she moved. Her tiny wings twitched anxiously as she clung to her mother's hand. Wide amber eyes followed every shift of the desert wind, frightened, but fierce in a way that caught Bruce off guard. Then she saw him. The girl tugged on her mother's arm and pointed directly at Bruce, and even through the heat distortion he could read her lips. "Do not cry, Mommer. Maybe that human will help us." The woman's head snapped upward, her ocean blue eyes widening in raw panic. She tried to rise, to put herself between her child and the stranger approaching them, but pain pulled her back down with a cry that carried across the desert. Bruce should have walked away. He should have turned around, gotten back into his beat-up salvage runner, and headed on to Cardian 7 where a broken ore processor waited for him. He should have remembered the centuries of bloodshed between their species. He should have remembered every reason to stay out of this. Instead, he lifted both hands in the universal sign of peace and walked toward them. "Please," the woman gasped, trembling. "We have nothing of value. Take the ship. Take anything. Just leave my daughter alone. Mama speaks badly when she is scared," the little girl said matter-of-factly, though her voice trembled. She is better when she is not bleeding. Lysandra, her mother hissed. Bruce stopped 10 feet away and slowly removed his helmet despite the blistering heat. He wanted them to see his face, to see that he meant no harm. I'm Bruce Stanton, mechanic. I picked up your distress signal. He nodded to the woman's arm, then to the wreck. Looks like you could use a hand. The woman hesitated, suspicion and pain warring in her eyes. Why would a human help us? Bruce glanced at the child. Because a little girl asked me to. Lysandra straightened, pride shining in her iridescent scales. Mommer says hope is the one thing nobody can steal. And you looked sad. Not dangerous. Mean people don't look sad when they walk. Serena. He would soon learn her name. Closed her eyes briefly in pained resignation, then introduced herself. And from that moment on, everything changed. As Bruce examined her shattered shoulder and the wound along her side, Lysandra hovered, offering small facts like stepping stones through her fear. Crystalline deserts stored heat. Cordian Prime plummeted to deadly temperatures after dusk. She was 7¼ years old. Her mother could fix anything, except herself. And somewhere between Serena's strained attempts at humor and Lysandra's earnest, wind-chime laughter, Bruce felt the desert inside his own chest shift. Fixing her shoulder made Serena scream into her own hand. Lysandra declared humans, sneaky but helpful. And when Bruce said he'd get them off this rock, Serena's voice broke on a whisper. We can't pay you. Bruce swallowed. Your daughter said I'd help. I'd hate to disappoint her. The walk to the salvage runner was slow, Serena leaning on him, Lysandra chattering to distract her mother. The child's hand occasionally brushed his, small and warm and trusting in a way he hadn't felt in years. By the time they reached the runner, Bruce already knew, deep down and against all logic, that he wasn't walking away from them. Not today. Maybe not ever. The salvage runner's hatch hissed open, releasing a draft of cool, filtered air that washed over them like a blessing. Bruce felt Serena sway beside him, her breath catching sharply as the sudden relief made her knees buckle. I've got you, he murmured, tightening his grip. Her wings fluttered weakly, trying to steady her, but they were too torn and bloodied to cooperate. She winced, shame flickering through her expression. I apologize, she whispered. I am heavier than I look. Ma'am, Bruce said as he helped her up the ramp, I've hauled mining engines up 3 flights of stairs. You're practically weightless. Lysandra darted past them into the cabin, her clawed feet tapping quick bright notes against the metal floor. Bruce has a nest, she declared. It is small and messy, like him. It's not messy, Bruce protested automatically, then looked around and winced. Tools scattered on the counter. A jacket on the floor. A half-eaten meal pack abandoned on the console. Serena managed the faintest laugh, though it dissolved into a pained cough. It is lived in. He eased her onto the narrow cot, the one he hadn't expected to share with anyone but the occasional bottle of cheap frontier whiskey. As she sank back, her breath shuddered, exhaustion finally overpowering vigilance. Lysandra hopped up beside her mother, touching her face gently. Mommer, Your scales are dim. You need sleep. Serena opened her eyes just long enough to answer. I cannot sleep yet, little flame. We do not know this man. Bruce crouched beside the cot, resting one hand on the metal frame. Serena. He tried her name for the first time. It rolled softly, surprisingly easy. You're safe here. I don't expect you to trust me yet. But I'm going to get you both to shelter. And a medic. Her blue eyes studied him, sharp and searching even through pain. Why? She whispered again. Humans do not extend kindness to my kind. Bruce looked away, jaw tightening. I've been on the fringe a long time. Seen a lot of good and a lot of bad, from every species. You and your daughter didn't do anything to deserve dying out there. A pause. And nobody that small should have to watch their mother bleed. Lysandra, who had been very quiet, suddenly touched Bruce's wrist with a small claw. Thank you. Just that. Pure, uncomplicated gratitude. It hit him harder than it should have. He cleared his throat. Strap in. It's a rough ride out of this canyon. Bruce slid into the pilot seat and began flicking switches. The engines sputtered to life with their usual cough, followed by a bone-deep rumble that made the walls vibrate. Serena flinched at the sound, her instincts clearly wired for sleeker, quieter Draconian craft. Relax, he said over his shoulder. It sounds worse than it is. That is not comforting, Serena replied, her voice thin but wry. Lysandra clung to her mother's uninjured arm, her wings tucked tight around herself. The ship lifted off, kicking up a halo of crystalline dust that shimmered like shattered rainbows. As they rose above the dunes, the desert stretched endless and luminous beneath the dying light. Bruce set a course for the nearest settlement, Kellner Station, a scrappy outpost carved into the rocky face of a canyon. They'd have medics, a safe bed, food that wasn't in powder form. He should have felt relief. Instead, something uneasy sat in his chest. Serena's breathing had grown shallow. Too shallow. Bruce flicked open a medical scanner. Cheap, outdated, but functional. He glanced at the readings and swore under his breath. The wound in her side wasn't just deep. There was foreign matter, metal fragments, lodged dangerously close to vital tissue. She needed real help, soon. He turned back. Serena. She blinked, barely conscious. You're going to be okay, he said gently. Just hold on a little longer. Her lips curved in a faint, almost disbelieving smile. You are kind, Bruce Stanton. The way she said his name startled him. Soft, trusting, as if he were someone worth trusting. Lysandra leaned against her mother, scales glowing faintly in the dim cabin light. We will stay with you, she said to Bruce. Until Mommer can fly again. Bruce's hands froze on the controls. Stay with him. That wasn't the plan. That wasn't anyone's plan. But as Serena drifted into uneasy sleep and Lysandra curled against her like a protective little dragonette, Bruce felt that same quiet shift inside him. The one that had begun in the desert. The one that whispered that maybe, just maybe, his life was about to change in ways he never expected. The salvage runner cut through the upper atmosphere in a shuddering arc, leaving the blistered desert behind. Night crept across Cardian Prime, fast and merciless, and Bruce kept one eye on the horizon as the ship climbed. He'd flown this route 100 times. Tonight, something felt wrong. A soft alarm chirped on the console. Bruce frowned. That's not good. From the cot, Serena stirred. What is it? He tapped the scanner. Motion on our tail. Small. Fast. Lysandra's head snapped up, golden eyes wide. Is it Mommer's people? Bruce wished he could lie. No, Draconian ships don't fly this low, and they don't skulk. The object broke through the cloud layer, a streak of red light that curved toward them with predatory precision. Serena forced herself upright, wincing. Put it on the display. Bruce hesitated. Serena, you need to stay still. Show me, she insisted, voice trembling but firm. He routed the sensor feed to the side monitor. The moment the sleek silhouette appeared, knife-edged wings, blood-black hull, glowing red thrusters, Serena's breath caught in her throat. Oh gods, she whispered. It's a Vornix hunter. Bruce had heard that name only once before. In a bar where rough men drank with their backs to the wall. The kind of whisper people said only after checking who was listening. A bounty killer? He asked. Worse, Serena murmured. They hunt for profit, and for sport. Lysandra crawled into her mother's lap, trembling violently. They found us, Mommer. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Shish, Serena soothed, gathering her daughter close with her uninjured arm. This is not your fault, little flame. The hunter ship swerved, crimson lights scanning the darkening sky. Then, it locked on. An alarm wailed, sharp and blaring. Bruce strapped himself in, hands flying across the controls. They're charging a grapple torpedo. That'll punch through my hull like tissue paper. Can we outrun it? Serena asked, gripping the cot. With this ship, no. Bruce gritted his teeth. But we might outsmart it. He killed the main thrusters, letting the ship dip abruptly. Serena and Lysandra clung to each other as the cabin lurched, gravity slamming them sideways. The Vornix hunter soared past them, overshooting. Bruce reignited the engines, hard. The runner shot downward in a controlled fall, skimming the canyon winds like a stone skipping water. Behind them, the hunter pivoted sharply. They're too fast, Serena gasped. You cannot escape them. Bruce spared a glance back. His eyes met hers. Raw fear. Fierce determination. Something else he couldn't name. I'm not letting that thing take you, he said. Either of you. Serena stared at him. Not with disbelief, but with a kind of stunned, fragile hope. The hunter dove, red light slicing through the dusk. A torpedo launched with a scream of burning air. Hold on, Bruce shouted. He yanked the runner sideways, thrusters roaring. The torpedo clipped their aft stabilizer in an eruption of sparks. Warning lights exploded across the console. The ship spun. Serena shielded Lysandra with her body as the cabin pitched, metal screaming under the strain. Bruce fought the controls with every ounce of strength. Come on. Come on. Stay with me. They leveled out inches above a jagged rock outcrop. The salvage runner limped onward, coughing smoke. The Vornix hunter circled for another pass. Serena looked at Bruce, breath ragged. "Why are you doing this?" "Ask me after we survive," he muttered. A small voice rose between them. "Bruce." Lysandra was crying silently, tears caught in her scales like tiny stars. "Don't let them take us," she whispered. Bruce swallowed. "They won't," he said. "I promise." The hunter ship screamed toward them again. Bruce slammed a switch. Panels on the underside of the runner peeled open. "What are you doing?" Serena demanded. "Dropping ballast. But we'll lose altitude." "That's the idea." The runner plummeted. The hunter overshot. Again. But this time clipped a rocky outcrop as it turned, sparks bursting across its hull. Bruce seized the moment, firing the thrusters in a desperate upward surge. The ship shot into a narrow canyon slit, barely wide enough to squeeze through. "Please fit, please fit, please fit," he muttered. The walls rushed past in a blur. The hunter tried to follow. Too narrow. It clipped the rock and reeled away, red lights flickering. Bruce didn't celebrate. They weren't safe yet. Not by a long shot, but they had seconds to breathe. Serena collapsed back, gripping Lysandra. Her eyes shimmered with something like awe. Or fear. Or both. "You risked your life for us." Bruce exhaled shakily. "I wasn't planning on letting anyone die today." The hunter regrouped behind them, rising for a shot from above. Serena's voice trembled. "Bruce. They won't stop." He tightened his grip on the controls. "Good," he said. "Neither will I." And the chase roared on into the deepening night. The canyon walls narrowed so tightly that the salvage runners' wingtips threw sparks whenever Bruce dipped too low. The night had fallen fully now. Sharp, cold, immediate. Shadows stretched like obsidian claws across the rock. And behind them, the Vornix hunter lit the sky in murderous red. Serena pushed herself upright, bracing against the wall. She was pale, her normally luminous scales dimming to a dull blue-gray, but her eyes were sharp, urgent. "They're gaining altitude," she warned. "They want a firing angle." "I know," Bruce said. "Just need a few more seconds." "For what?" Serena pressed. "To make this canyon fight back." He jerked the ship left. Metal screamed against stone. Above them, cliffs rose jagged and sheer, cutting the stars to slivers. The hunter dove. Its torpedo tubes glowed like coals. Lysandra cried out and clung to her mother. Bruce didn't hesitate. He killed the lights. The runner plunged into darkness. The canyon swallowed them whole. No beacons, no interior glow, only the faint pulse of emergency panels and the echo of their own breathing. The hunter lost sight for a moment. Only a moment. Red searchlights flared overhead, brushing the canyon like bloody fingers. Serena trembled, holding Lysandra close. "Bruce, Bruce, they will hit the rock walls and bring the canyon down." "That's the idea. Are you mad?" "Little bit." Bruce nosed the runner upward toward a narrow stone arch that bridged one side of the canyon to the other, an unstable natural formation, cracked and thin from centuries of wind erosion. "Serena," he said through clenched teeth. "When I say brace, brace." Lysandra peered over her mother's arm, eyes wide and glistening. "What are you doing?" "Trying not to die," Bruce muttered. The hunter locked onto their position again, red lights slicing the dark. The canyon vibrated with the rising whine of another torpedo shot. "Brace." Bruce pulled the runner into a tight loop around the arch. Dangerously close, so close that the wings scraped stone. The torpedo launched. Bruce yanked the ship downward. The missile didn't follow the runner. It hit the arch. A thunderous crack split the canyon. Stone exploded in a cloud of dust and flame as the arch collapsed, boulders the size of shuttle pods crashing downward. Straight onto the hunter. For a heartbeat, the sky lit with crimson fury as the Vornix ship smashed against the falling debris. Its engines flared, sputtered, then vanished beneath the avalanche in a bloom of fire. The canyon shook with the force of it. The shockwave punched the salvage runner sideways. Bruce wrestled the controls, boots slipping on the metal floor. Serena shielded Lysandra with her wings as the ship bucked wildly. Finally, after what felt like a lifetime, the runner steadied. Silence fell. Real silence. A vast, echoing stillness broken only by the hum of the engines and the ragged breaths of three people who had nearly died together. Serena lowered her wings slowly. Her whole body trembled. Lysandra peeked out, tears still shining on her cheeks. Is it gone?" Bruce exhaled shakily. "Yeah, it's gone." He didn't add "for now." Asterisk. He didn't want the girl to hear it. Serena sagged back against the wall, pain etched across her face in sharp, raw lines. "You outsmarted a Vornix hunter," she said softly. "No human has ever done that." Bruce managed a tired grin. "Guess nobody told me I wasn't supposed to." She stared at him then. Really stared. As if trying to understand the shape of the man in front of her. As if she couldn't quite believe he existed. Her voice came out quiet. "Thank you, Bruce Stanton." Lysandra warped her arms around him suddenly, small, fierce, warm. He froze, startled. "Thank you for saving my mommer," she whispered into his shoulder. Bruce swallowed hard. He wasn't a man used to being held. He gently returned the embrace. Then Serena's breath hitched, and she slumped sideways. "Mama!" Lysandra cried. Bruce was at her side in an instant. Her pulse was fluttering, her skin cold, the dimming light in her scales now almost gone. Bruce's stomach turned to ice. "All right," he murmured. "Hold on. We're heading to Kellner Station right now." He lifted her, carefully, cradling her weight, and laid her fully against the cot. Lysandra crawled beside her, gripping her mother's hand. The girl's voice was a fragile whisper. "Bruce, you won't let her die, right?" Bruce met the child's gaze. "No," he said, and he meant it with every bone in his body. "Not on my watch." He fired the engines and pushed the salvage runner toward the horizon at full burn. Ahead, the distant lights of Kellner Station flickered like a promise. Behind them, buried under a mountain of shattered stone, a single red glow blinked back to life beneath the rubble. Kellner Station clung to the canyon wall like a metal barnacle. Rusted, battered, half abandoned, but to Bruce, it had never looked so hopeful. The station's landing beacons flickered through the cold night air as the salvage runner limped toward them, smoke trailing from the damaged stabilizer. Inside the cabin, Serena lay very still. Too still. Her breathing had gone shallow, each inhale a tremor. The luminous blue of her eyes dimmed every time she tried to blink. Lysandra crouched beside her, stroking her mother's arm with trembling fingers. "Mommer," a small, breaking whisper. "Please wake up." Bruce's hands tightened around the controls. "We're almost there. Just hold on a little longer." Serena didn't answer. The runner touched down with a jarring lurch. Bruce unstrapped himself and rushed to the back of the cabin. He lifted Serena gently. She felt lighter than she should, dangerously so, and motioned for Lysandra to follow. The station's airlock hissed open, letting out a gust of cold metallic air tinged with ozone. Flickering lights buzzed overhead in the docking bay. A single figure hurried toward them, a tall woman with a rugged medic's vest and a half-burned data tablet hanging from her belt. "Talia," Bruce called. "Need a hemorrhage kit and a full-spectrum scan. Now." Talia Aaron, medic and perpetual miracle worker, took one look at Serena and her face drained of color. "What the hell did you bring me, Stanton?" "A friend. And she's dying." Talia didn't waste another second. She slapped a stretcher pad onto the floor. It inflated with a hiss. "Lay her down, Lysandra. Sweetheart. Stay by her head." The girl obeyed instantly, eyes huge and wet, wings drooping. Talia ran the scanner over Serena's torso. The device beeped angrily, its display flashing crimson. Multiple fractures in the wing joints, severe internal bleeding, metal debris lodged near the primary respiratory canal. Talia exhaled sharply. She won't survive without surgery. Bruce felt his stomach drop. "Then do it, Bruce," Talia said quietly. "Draconian anatomy isn't human. One mistake and I trust you." Talia stared at him for a long moment before nodding once. "Prep room 3. Move." They rushed down the metal corridor, boots clanging, station lights flickering overhead like weak fireflies. But while they worked, something stirred outside. Perched on the canyon ridge above the station, hidden from the landing bay's limited scanners, a single red optical sensor blinked awake. The Vornix Hunter, scarred, half-crushed, but functional, dragged itself from the rubble. Its AI core pulsed with cold intent. Targets located. Pursuit protocol active. Retrieval priority high. It crawled across the cliffs like a wounded predator. Kellner Station was in its sights. Talia's surgical lights flared on, bathing the small room in harsh white. Serena lay unconscious on the table, scales pale, chest rising only with the help of a bio-breather mask. Lysandra stood beside her, holding her mother's limp hand. Bruce hovered near the door, helpless, fists clenched. "Talia?" he asked, voice cracking in a way that startled even him. "Tell me she'll make it." Talia adjusted a set of precision tools with shaking fingers. "I won't lie. Bruce, it's bad. Her voice softened. But I'll do everything I can. Lysandra looked up at Bruce, tears gathering at her lashes. Please stay, she whispered. Please don't leave me alone. Bruce knelt beside her. I'm right here, he said. I'm not going anywhere. She nodded, wiping her eyes with small scaled hands. Then a deep rumble vibrated through the floor. Talia froze. What was that? Another rumble. Closer. Then the flickering lights dimmed, then snapped off entirely. The station plunged into darkness. Emergency lights flickered on in hot red pulses. Lysandra whimpered, wings curling tight. Bruce's blood ran cold. That wasn't a power failure, he said. That was an impact. Talia cursed under her breath. Bruce, what followed you here? The answer came from down the corridor. A metallic shriek that tore through the station's steel bones. Bruce grabbed a metal pipe from the wall bracket. His voice dropped to a low, steady growl. Get her stable, he told Talia. Lock this room down, Bruce. Talia began. I'll deal with whatever that is. Lysandra lunged forward and grabbed his sleeve. Don't go. Bruce crouched again, taking her small, trembling hands in his. I'll be back, he said. Your mom needs you, and I need you to be brave for her. Lysandra swallowed hard, then nodded. Bruce stood, pipe in hand. Beyond the door, something metallic crawled and scraped against the walls, something that should not have survived the canyon collapse. Talia sealed the surgery room. The door hissed shut. Bruce turned toward the dark corridor. He wasn't trained for this. He wasn't armed for this. He wasn't ready for this. But he walked forward anyway. Because two lives behind that door depended on him. As he stepped into the dim red-lit hallway, the station shuddered. And from the shadows at the far end, a single red eye glowed back at him. Alive, hungry, hunting. The Vornix had come for its prey. And Bruce Stanton was the only thing standing in its way. The Nebula Wren drifted in the long, silent hours after the emergency jump. Outside the forward viewport, the cosmos hung like spilled ink, faint gas filaments drifting in violet arcs, as if the universe had bruised itself. Bruce kept the ship at sublight, engines low and quiet. Serena still slept, curled around her daughter like a protective crescent moon, their wings folded but trembling with each breath. The med bed pulsed softly under them. The quiet should have been comforting. It wasn't. He couldn't shake the sense that something followed them out of the jump. A gravity echo, faint. A ripple in the dark. Something too precise to be random. Bruce finally forced himself to step away from the cockpit and check the passive scanners again. Lysandra had climbed into the co-pilot's chair, barely big enough for her, but she sat upright, tail curled neatly around the base. Her golden eyes flicked to him, thoughtful. Too thoughtful for someone her age. Is Mama getting worse? She asked quietly. He hesitated. Lysandra watched him like someone who didn't need lies, only the truth offered gently. She's stable, he said. But she needs proper care soon. Lysandra nodded, resting her chin on the chair's arm. That place you're taking us, Kellner Station. You said people there help. Refugees. Bruce leaned back, exhaling. Usually. If you have the right friends. And if you don't, you make them. The girl considered that, almost amused. Humans like making things difficult. He huffed a breath that was half laugh, half exhaustion. We're talented that way. After a long pause, Lysandra spoke again, so soft he almost missed it. We weren't supposed to be in human space at all. Bruce froze. We were crossing the border drift to meet someone, she continued quietly, claws rubbing the chair's fabric. A human, actually. That surprised him. Who? I don't know. Mama never told me names. Her tail tightened. Just that he had information. Bruce lowered himself into the pilot's chair. What kind of information? Lysandra looked out at the stars, the same direction they'd jumped from, and her small voice slid into something sharper, older. The kind people kill for. Bruce felt his heartbeat tighten. Before he could ask more, the console chimed. Not loudly, not urgently. Just a single, quiet tone. Bruce leaned forward. The scanners showed nothing visible. No ships. No transponders. No debris. No heat signatures. Just a pattern. A faint, repeating pulse in subspace. Almost like someone is talking, Lysandra whispered, leaning toward the display. Talking. It's a call sign. Her pupils tightened, but not one humans use. Bruce magnified the waveform. Just noise to him. Static. But the pattern wasn't natural. Then Lysandra said it. It's Draconian military code. His stomach dropped. Can you read it? He asked. She swallowed. Only pieces. Another pulse. Stronger. What does it say? Lysandra didn't answer right away. Her claws curled. Her eyes glimmered with fear she couldn't hide. Finally, it asks if the target survived. Bruce's blood ran cold. And then it asks. Her voice cracked faintly. Was the child recovered? Bruce stood so quickly the chair rolled back. Lysandra. Who did your mother meet? What was she carrying? Why would the Draconian military be? He stopped. The girl had gone still. Very still. Her small chest rose sharply as she whispered. Someone didn't destroy our ship to kill us. She turned her wide, shimmering eyes up toward him. They destroyed it because they wanted us alive. The proximity alarm chimed again. Louder this time. Something had entered real space nearby. Close. Too close. The nebula wren shuddered. Just slightly. Just enough for Bruce to feel it like a fingernail dragged down his spine. Real space quiet shattered in a single moment. Something massive had arrived. He lunged toward the controls as Lysandra scrambled into the co-pilot's seat, her wings tucked tight against her body. The scanners flickered. Static. Then a silhouette. Long. Predatory. Curved like a spearhead with layered plating that drank in starlight. Not human. Not civilian. Not a patrol. A Draconian vanguard cutter. Bruce cursed under his breath. That's a warship. Why the hell would they send? Lysandra cut him off, voice trembling. They're tracking for me. He stared at her. How? She didn't answer right away. Her small claws pressed into the armrest, shaking. The signal we saw, it wasn't just a message. She swallowed. It was a query beacon, meant to wake a transponder. Bruce's blood iced over. You're telling me you're wearing a tracker? Not on me. She shook her head, tears threatening. On my genes. On my scent. On what I am. Bruce stared at her, this small, frightened child, and realized the awful truth. They hadn't just been hunted. They had been claimed, and the cutter outside had just found its property. The enemy ship began to glow, barely visible, just an outline of heat blooming along its undercarriage. Bruce knew the signature. A targeting array, high precision, a non-lethal disablement shot. They didn't want the ship. They wanted the survivors inside. He slammed power to the thrusters. The Nebula Wren coughed. Literally coughed. Her old valves groaning in protest as they surged to life. The deck vibrated beneath their feet like a living thing waking painfully. Through the viewport, the cutter shifted position with surgical precision. Hold on, Bruce shouted. He snapped the Wren into a hard roll. The inertia dampeners shrieked. Lysandra yelped but held tight. A beam lanced past the hull, thin as a needle, bright as a second sun. The ship rattled violently. That was a tagging shot, Bruce hissed. They miss once on purpose. The second one hits. Can't we jump? Lysandra cried. I need a full minute to charge the core. We don't have a minute. Another pulse built on the cutter. This one brighter, hungrier. Bruce's thoughts raced viciously. He couldn't outrun a Vanguard cutter. He couldn't fight it. He couldn't hide. But he could do something else. Something reckless. Something stupid. Something so suicidal no military captain would expect it. His hand hovered over the manual override. Lysandra, he said quietly, strap in. Tight. Her throat bogged. What are you doing? Leveling the playing field. He switched off the stabilizers. The Nebula Wren lurched like an animal suddenly set loose. Every drift correction, every safety buffer, gone. Bruce pitched the ship downward, angling toward the thickest cluster of dust and ice fragments in the nearby nebula stream. A place any sane pilot avoided because it could shear a hull like tissue paper. The cutter hesitated, just a fraction of a second. But a fraction was all Bruce needed. He dove the Wren straight into the blinding particulate storm. Metal screamed. Sparks leapt from the overhead panels. Alarms wailed. Lysandra clung to the seat, her wings shaking violently, eyes wide with terror, but she didn't scream. Bruce gritted his teeth, wrestling the controls like a beast trying to buck him. Behind them, the cutter fired. But the shot scattered across the storm, refracted into harmless, chaotic beams. The Wren plunged deeper. The enemy ship followed, but slower, cautious. Bruce smiled. Just a thin, sharp thing. Come on. Chase me, you bastard. Then the console beeped. A new tone. Soft, unfamiliar. Bruce frowned, checking the readout. A transmission. Not from the cutter. Encrypted. Human frequency. Labeled only with a short call sign. HELIOS 7. Lysandra leaned in, voice barely a whisper. That's the human Mama was going to meet. Bruce's pulse kicked hard. The transmission repeated, urgent, insistent. And then, a second signature appeared on the scanner. Small, fast, coming straight toward them. Not hostile, but cutting dangerously close. The cutter was still behind them. Now another unknown vessel approached from ahead. The Wren was trapped. The new ship cut through the nebulous storm with impossible precision. Small, sleek, almost blade-like, built for speed and evasion rather than muscle. It moved with the confidence of a pilot who knew the cutter wouldn't risk a heavy blast in this terrain. He was right. The Draconian warship held back, hesitant. Bruce rode the turbulence, knuckles white on the controls as the mysterious craft closed the last few kilometers. Its hull lights flickered once, twice, deliberate pulses, unmistakably coded. Friendly, human, classified level. Lysandra recognized it instantly. Her claws dug into the console. "That's him," she whispered. "That has to be him." "You sure? Could be a trap." "No, he used that signal when Mama trained me. It means, come to me, but don't trust me yet." Bruce's brows knit. That's a hell of a mixed message. It's how Mama described him. A tight beam transmission suddenly snapped into the cockpit speakers, crisp and clean despite the dust storm. A man's voice, calm, measured, with the weary edge of someone who had seen far too much. "Greater than, Nebula Wren, adjust heading to Vector 606. I'll cut a path through the debris." Bruce didn't answer immediately. The man continued, tone sharpening. "Greater than, if you don't move now, the cutter tags you in 12 seconds. I don't have time to argue." Bruce muttered, "Arrogant bastard." Lysandra practically vibrated. "He's telling the truth. They're charging another shot." And they were. Bruce saw the energy spike on the scanner. He swore and yanked the Wren onto the Vector. The small human ship, Helios -7*, surged forward, its engines flaring. A narrow wake of electromagnetic force pushed the nebula particles aside, carving a swirling corridor through the debris field. A maneuver no civilian ship should have been capable of. Bruce guided the Wren into the corridor, engines screaming, hull meters peaking in the red. But the path held. For 3 seconds. 6. 10. Then, a brilliant slash of light behind them. The cutter fired. The beam hit the dust cloud where the Wren had been moments before, scattering energy like shattered glass. The warship hesitated again, unwilling to follow Helios 7 through such a tight path. Bruce let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. The voice returned over comms. "Greater than, Wren, you've got 30 seconds before the cutter recalculates. We need to sync for a tandem micro jump. I'll provide the solution." Bruce stiffened. A tandem jump required trust. Absolute trust. If Helios 7 fed them bad coordinates, the Wren could jump into an asteroid, a star, oblivion. Or straight into a draconian trap. Bruce tightened his grip on the throttle. "You expect me to jump blind?" The man's reply was immediate. "Greater than, if I wanted you dead, the cutter would have done it already." Bruce paused. He hated that the logic held. Lysandra stared at him, eyes huge. "Please," she whispered. "We have to go with him. He's the only one Mama said we could trust." Bruce kept his voice low. "And did she say why?" Lysandra shook her head. Slowly, painfully. "No, only that he's the reason she risked everything." The cutter loomed on the scanners, growing sharper as it began plowing through the debris. Their window was shrinking fast. Helios 7 transmitted jump coordinates. A perfect spiral sequence. Flawless. Terrifying. Bruce swallowed hard, jaw clenched. "Helios 7, he growled into the mic. "If this goes sideways," the man interrupted, almost bored. "Greater than. Save the threats. Engage on my mark." Bruce's disbelief spiked. Lysandra tried not to smile. "Then, greater than. Mark." Bruce slammed the jump key. Space folded. Light warped. The Wren shook like it was being torn inside out. And then, silence. Real space rippled into view. They had made it. Helios 7 appeared beside them, perfectly synchronized. A final transmission came through, this time quieter. He sounded almost human now. Tired, relieved. "Greater than. Nebula Wren, prepare for docking. We need to talk." Bruce exhaled. "About what?" The reply was a whisper wrapped in steel. "Greater than. About the weapon Serena stole, and why half the Draconian military wants her daughter alive." Lysandra froze. Bruce's heart stopped. Helios 7 drifted closer, its docking arms unfolding like an invitation, and a threat. Their only ally, or their most dangerous mistake. The Helios -7 drifted beside the Nebula Wren like a wolf pacing a wounded deer, close, controlled, predatory in elegance. Sleek black plating, minimal markings, no faction identifiers, a ghost ship built for secrets. Bruce matched velocity and brought the docking clamps online. The tension in the air felt thick enough to hold between his teeth. Lysandra stood beside him, wings pulled tight, tail wrapped nervously around one leg. She wasn't shaking. Not exactly. But she wasn't still either. "Stay behind me," Bruce murmured. She nodded. The docking ring engaged with a metallic clunk that sounded far too final. Lights flickered as the pressurization cycle began. A hiss, a rumble, silence. Then the hatch slid open. Bruce stepped through first. The Helios 7 was quiet. Not silent. Quiet. Like someone had deliberately smoothed every sound out of the air. The lighting was soft, low. The corridors narrow and clean, built for function, not comfort. He felt Lysandra slip in behind him. A soft click echoed through the metal. Bruce turned. A figure stood at the far end of the entry corridor. Human. Male. Tall. Though not imposing. His posture relaxed, almost disarmingly casual. Dark hair streaked with early gray. Eyes sharp and steady, like he'd learned long ago that blinking could get a man killed. He wore a simple flight jacket. Unmarked, unthreatening. Except Bruce felt threatened anyway. The man's gaze swept from Bruce to Lysandra, and softened. Just slightly. Then he spoke. Calm. Measured. Exactly the voice from the calm. Greater than. Lysandra. The girl froze. Bruce shifted, blocking half her body behind him. The man lifted both hands in a slow, harmless gesture. Greater than. Good. You're safe. Serena would be relieved. Lysandra's breath hitched. Bruce caught the way the man said her mother's name. Not formally, not distantly, not with caution. He said it like someone who knew her. Not just professionally, personally. Bruce's jaw tightened. Who the hell are you? Bruce asked. The man didn't bristle, didn't posture, didn't reach for a weapon. He simply nodded once, as if he'd expected the hostility. Greater than. My name's Kale. Just Kale. No rank. No surname. Not a good sign. And your connection to Serena. Bruce pressed. Kale's eyes flicked, just briefly, toward Lysandra, as if waiting for her permission to speak. She gave a tiny nod. Kale inhaled softly. Greater than. I was her handler. And her partner. Bruce blinked. Partner as in. Kale cut him off dryly. Greater than. Work partner. Don't make that face. Lysandra almost laughed, a soft nervous puff. Kale's gaze gentled. Greater than. I trained with Serena in the Concord Intelligence Exchange. She trusted me to protect her if things went wrong. Bruce felt a pang of unease, a deep one. Wrong how? He asked. Kale didn't answer immediately. He simply turned and gestured for them to follow. Greater than. We'll talk in the main cabin. Your ship's power signature is too easy to track. You're not safe until we pull deeper into the drift. Bruce hesitated. Trusting Kale felt like trying to grip a knife by the blade. But staying docked, defenseless, would be worse. He nodded once. Lysandra stayed close to his leg as they followed Kale down the corridor. The main cabin was small but efficient. Holotables, encrypted consoles, a few jump seats. Kale moved with a familiarity that made Bruce's skin crawl. This man lived inside secrets the way others lived inside their skin. At the center console, Kale tapped a sequence. A hollow map shimmered to life. 3 zones highlighted in red. 1 pulsed. Kale pointed to it. Greater than. This is where Serena's ship was attacked. The Draconian cutter wasn't acting alone. Bruce stepped closer, eyes narrowing. What do you mean? Kale looked at him directly. Not cold, not harsh, but with the weight of someone about to drop a truth heavy enough to break ribs. Greater than. Serena wasn't running from Draconians. Greater than. She was running from humans. The cabin fell into stillness. Bruce felt the words hit him like a physical blow. Lysandra's breath stuttered. Her wings twitched. Kale continued. Greater than. Your people built something. Something they shouldn't have. Serena stole the only piece that could stop it. Bruce swallowed hard. What did she steal? Kale's gaze shifted to Lysandra. Not unkind, not cruel, but weighted with dread. Greater than. She stole her. Lysandra went utterly still, silent, frozen. Bruce felt the blood drain from his face. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Kale exhaled. Greater than. Lysandra wasn't born by accident. Greater than. She was manufactured. Kale's words hung in the air like the echo of a dropped blade. Lysandra wasn't born by accident. She was manufactured. Bruce felt the girl beside him shrink in on herself, wings tightening, breath trembling. He reached out, steadying a hand on her shoulder. Lysandra. His voice gentled. You're not a weapon. She didn't answer. Large golden eyes brimmed, shimmering with something between confusion and pain. Kale stepped closer, but slowly, palms open. Listen to me. What the humans wanted to build wasn't a bomb or a virus. It was a bridge. He paused. A biological interface able to communicate between species' minds. A living translator. Bruce exhaled sharply. That doesn't sound like something worth killing a family over. Kale's eyes hardened. It is when the governments involved planned to twist it into something else. Something that could control minds instead of understand them. Lysandra blinked. I was made for that. No. Kale's voice cracked. Serena made sure you weren't. She altered the genetic matrix. She saved you from what they intended. That's why she ran. A soft sound came from the entryway. A breath. A whisper. Bruce turned. Serena was awake. She leaned against the doorway, still weak, wings drooping, but her eyes, those molten, fierce eyes, held steady on her daughter. Lysandra, she whispered, sliding forward, come here. The girl rushed into her arms. Serena folded her wings around her like a shield, one shaking hand stroking the back of Lysandra's head. You were never a weapon, Serena murmured, voice shattering. You were the only beautiful thing they ever made. Lysandra cried into her chest. Kale stepped back respectfully. Bruce's chest tightened. He felt like he was witnessing a raw truth that no outsider deserved to see. Finally, Serena looked up at Bruce, eyes full of exhausted gratitude. You saved her. He shook his head. She saved me right back. Kale moved to the ship's console. We don't have long. The cutter tracked our jump quicker than expected. They're 30 minutes out. Serena straightened, wincing but resolute. They want her alive. To finish the project. They'll never stop, Kale added. As long as Lysandra exists, she's a target for both sides. Humans want to exploit her. Draconians want to claim her. Lysandra swallowed hard, pulling closer to her mother. Bruce leaned forward. So we hide her. Somewhere no one looks. Kale shook his head. You don't understand. The only way she stops being hunted is if the project stops existing. Serena closed her eyes. And that means. She couldn't say it, but they all understood. Destroy the original genetic code. Destroy the research. Destroy anything that makes Lysandra special. But the code had a single remaining archive, stored aboard the arriving cutter. Kale turned to Bruce. Only one ship can get close enough to breach their archive compartment in time. Bruce scowled. You're looking at me. You're the only independent pilot who can outrun their point defense system, Kale said. Serena and Lysandra will stay on HELIOS 7. Safer here. Lysandra's eyes widened. Bruce. No. He knelt, placing both hands on her shoulders. Hey, look at me. Her eyes lifted. I'm not leaving you. I'm just finishing what your mother started. Serena's voice trembled. You don't owe us this. Bruce met her gaze. Maybe not. But I'm doing it anyway. She didn't argue. She simply nodded. Softly, solemnly. Then may the stars guard you. The Nebula Wren peeled away from Helios 7, engines burning hotter than they had in years. Bruce kept his breath steady, fingers moving with practiced instinct. The cutter loomed ahead, a dark spear against the nebula. He dove straight toward it. Missile locks flared red. Point defense guns spun to life. The Wren shuddered under near misses. Bruce grinned despite himself. You want me? Come get me. He spiraled hard, racing along the cutter's hull, sliding just under the firing threshold. The warship couldn't risk hitting itself. The archive compartment glowed faintly, shielded but vulnerable. Bruce armed the Wren's last plasma charge. Lysandra, he whispered into the comm, this is for your future. He fired. The explosion rippled across the cutter's spine, shredding the archive node into brilliant shards. The project was dead. Lysandra was free. Then a shockwave slammed the Wren sideways, throwing Bruce hard against the controls. Alarms screamed. Engines sputtered. Hull cracked. He was going down. Bruce. Lysandra's voice shrieked over comm, terrified. Serena shouted commands in the background. Cale tried to stabilize the signal. Bruce coughed, blinking blood from his eyes. I'm okay. I'm okay. He wasn't sure he was. The cutter erupted behind him, losing power, drifting. But the Wren was spinning out, oxygen venting from a breach. He fought the controls. Cale, he rasped. If I can't pull up. Cale cut him off sharply. Greater than. Shut up and fly, Bruce. The Helios 7 flashed into view beneath him, engines flaring impossibly bright. They swung under the Wren's trajectory and caught her, mag clamps snapping onto the broken hull with a bone-rattling jolt. Bruce slumped back, dizzy. Lysandra's voice broke through the comm again. Bruce. Please. Say something. He managed a smile. I told you I wasn't leaving. And then everything went dark. When he woke, he was in a medical berth aboard Helios -7. Serena watched over him, one wing folded protectively near his arm. Lysandra sat curled at his side, asleep against his shoulder. Cale leaned in the doorway. We're safe, he said quietly. Both factions think Lysandra died with the archive. The hunt is over. Bruce exhaled slowly. Lysandra stirred and lifted her head, eyes brightening. You're alive, she whispered, relief flooding her face. Bruce nudged her gently with a tired smile. Told you I don't break that easily. Serena's gaze softened. Warm, grateful, full of something deeper than words. You gave her a future, she said. You gave us a future. Bruce swallowed past a sudden tightness in his throat. Where will you go now? He asked. Serena looked at Cale. Cale looked at Lysandra. Lysandra looked at Bruce. And the girl spoke first. Wherever you go. Bruce stared at her. Surprised. Stunned. and then slowly looked to Serena. Her expression was quiet, hopeful, open. "Stay with us," she whispered. "In whatever sky we choose." Bruce closed his eyes briefly, then nodded once. A simple, steady promise. "Yeah," he said softly. "I'd like that." The Helios 7 slipped into the stars, carrying a mother, a daughter, a tired spy, and a stubborn pilot toward a future no longer shaped by fear, but by choice. Together, in the sky they chose.